Hello everybody, Chaz Arch here with another Fix It video for you, and hopefully this one may be either a very quick one or it will be a dead duck. This is a SHARP DX-150. I used to work for them when these first came out brand new, and I found that they were actually quite easy to work on, and they were quite useful for showing various tests and checks you can make. So if I can get this working properly, I can demonstrate a few things that you can check on any other CD player. So let's just plug it in and see what happens. Apparently it works, but it doesn't play discs, which is a fairly common thing, I would think. Right, well, it comes on and says CD. The tray opens. Let's pop a CD in and see what it does. We'll start off with good old Gloria Estefan's Greatest Hits, because that's always a good disc to put in, and see what it does on the display. And absolutely nothing on the display. So if we press play or anything like that, nothing should happen. No. Okay, so I very much suspect that either the optical block, the laser, has failed due to its age, or there is some other electrical fault. So let's first off just take the lid off and see what happens when we put the disc in. So I'll just whiz the old lid off. One of the first things to check with any CD player is when you put the disc in, does it spin? Okay, so we put the disc in, and actually what's happening is it's not even dropping the disc down. The actual disc dropper mechanism is just not getting there, and I suspect that that's down to a failed dry belt. Because if we close it up manually, we can hear the motor still running. Yep. So I think if we change that drive belt to a tighter one, I think that will probably do the job. Because this drive belt has to drive the whole mechanism. And as you can see from the look of this drive belt, it's very much kinked into one position where it's been, let's just bring it up a bit closer, into one position where it's been like that for so long. It's basically lost its tension, and you pull it and stretch it and see how long it takes to recover back to a circle, and it isn't. It's on the verge of complete failure. So let's just get a replacement drive belt. Right, I've looked through my stack of drive belts, and I don't have an original one of these. I've got quite a few original Sharp belts, JVC belts and various other belts, but not this one. So I've got a generic one. It looks about the right size. It's slightly smaller than this one that's on there, so it should do the job. It's just not quite the same thickness, whereas this one's probably about a 2mm, this is about 1.5mm, but it should do the job quite adequately. So let's get a pair of tweezers, get this belt installed. It's dead easy to drop in over the pulley there, and then over the dry pulley of that, and hopefully that should restore normal operation when we close the drawer, and it does. Excellent. So now we'll actually see whether the actual disc spins, and the disc isn't spinning. Is it free to spin? Not quite, no, because the actual mechanism I don't think has fully gone right down. Yeah, the magnet isn't clamping down. So either it's probably just all a bit, yeah. It's probably all a little bit loose, and maybe I need to try a slightly tighter belt than that to pull it in place. No, that's, oh, hang on. Now the other thing that it could be, if you look, if I can get this in the right angle for the camera, let's go with the overhead camera, that's the one I was trying to get at. That there is known as the turntable, and that's what this sits on when this comes in. And sometimes what's happened is, because it's a plastic turntable pushed onto a spindle, a metal spindle, sometimes that can actually be pushed down too far. So when that clamp comes in, yeah, it's not getting down far enough. But sometimes if the turntable has pushed itself down, or maybe even somebody's actually pushed it down, it could be that that's the reason for it. Like, that should be slightly further down than that. So we've got a mechanical issue. That clamp should be getting down a bit further than that. It's just not sitting. It's not sitting properly on the turntable anyway. I'm wondering, has somebody taken this off in the past? I'll tell you what we'll do. As we've got it open, we've got live mains sort of sitting here. We'll disconnect it. Let's just take that off, and then there's a little clip here which we can take that out. That's the clamp there. I'm not sure that's the right clamp to go on there. Let's put that back on. Now the other thing is that the optical block is not sitting back in the middle. It should be back here. Is it not getting returned? Yeah, see, this optical block should come back into the middle. I'm wondering if we've got a problem with that as well. A lot more wrong with this than I anticipated, which is a good thing, so at least we'll be able to do some fault finding on it. So I think the best thing to do is take the whole chassis out and work on it that way. Now we can get the tray out. There's a little clip on here which we can push to one side, and the whole tray should just gently ease out. Oh no, there's another one down there as well. Yeah, there's two clips. That's it. I have to try and remember this. It was a long time ago when I used to teach engineers how to work on these, but there's a clip here that just stops the tray coming out too far that side, and there's that clip there. So that then allows the tray to come out. And now we should be able to get the mechanism out. But so we've got a motor here, and we've got a drive belt there, and a gear assembly, and that drives a worm gear along here which moves the optical block up and down, and that's not even moving. Right, so let's have the whole lot out of the mechanism. We're powered off, so we're safe. Now if my memory serves me right, we have to take the front panel off because this screw here is stopping it. Okay, so the front panel is now released, and now we should be able to take these two screws that hold the whole deck mechanism in. That's it, there's none on there, so that's the whole mechanism like that. And you can tell the age of this to some degree by the size of those surface mounted components. A lot of them are quite big compared to more modern SMD components. So this would date this to late 80s, early 90s, I think. Can't quite remember exactly when this came out on the market. Now, the CD mechanism, I think we have to separate the plastic chassis from the circuit board, or vice versa, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's just a couple of screws for that. So I'll leave all the plugs and sockets in for the time being because we can work on this optical block relatively easily. So let's try turning this. Right, the motor is turning, I think. Is the motor turning? let's just pop the belt off for a minute. Get a little tray and put these screws in. Pop that belt off there and see if we can turn the optical block, make that move, which it does. So this motor, I don't think is turning. I think this motor is seized. Yeah, feels like this motor is seized up. It's just moving now. So I think what we'll have to do is we'll have to take this whole mechanism out. It's all on plugs, cable tie there. So we've got one screw, a couple of cables. Yeah. I think those, yeah, let's release that. I'm just going to clip this cable tie. Easy to replace this. And hopefully what I'm thinking is that this motor and that motor and the switches are all plugged into one plug. Yep, they are. Ease that plug out. There we go, and the optical block, etc., is all plugged into there. So have we got the, there should be a shorting link on the optical block, so that if you disconnect it, you short out the laser, so as static electricity won't affect it. But I can't see one on this without looking in the manual. Don't think it's these. Oh no, there it is. There it is. Yes, I've just seen it there. So I'm just going to solder across. I put a little blob of solder across this connection. I'll tell you what. Let me get a little bit closer with my other camera. Right. So we can see there's a little shorting link across here. So basically what you've got on this optical block, let's just give you a quick rundown of that. You've got the laser diode here, and then you've got the optical block there. So the laser beam is sent up through a diffraction grating, and then once it's reflected off the light, it comes back through a prism and goes off to the sensor, the pickup diodes, which are here. Okay, and I'm pretty sure this is an astigmatic optical block, so it's a little bit of a term that just means that the shape of the laser beam determines the focusing rather than the actual height of the focus. And we'll just put a shorting link across it that way. There we are. So assuming the laser is actually okay, what this means is that when I unplug it, if there's any static floating about, it's not going to affect the optical block. Okay, there we go. It just eased it out, just gently. Trying to hold on to the plug if I can at the bottom end. Like so. Okay, so the optical block is undone. So there's our little motor there, which we need to free up. So I'm wondering if we can just put a drop of some oil into it, but I think it's probably better if we actually take that out, because I don't want it laying sideways. I want to do it vertically. Little rubber standoffs, which should just come out sideways, like so. And then we have it out. So yeah, I can barely turn that motor. So I'm just going to drop a little tiny drop of penetrating oil, good old 3-in-1 oil, and hopefully I can just drop that into where that spindle is there, and it might free up that bearing. And yes, yep, the bearing is now free. That's good. Let's just get a little piece of kitchen foil, a kitchen roll on there, just to mop up any that I may have touched on that thing. Put the drive belt back on. Okay, we've now got that back on. I'm pretty sure that's now going to work. It certainly seems to be turning, moving the optical block. Yep, and in the other direction, that's okay. Right, now, whilst we've got this in this position, let's have a look at the edge of the bottom of the turntable here, because what happens is these can split, and so the turntable drops down. It looks like it's in the right place, and if we put a disc on the turntable, it should clear the optical block, but it's not. It's actually touching the optical block. It's actually, it has dropped. I figured it probably had. Now I need to get the manual to check the measurement of that height to set the turntable correctly. So bear with me a second while I just get a manual. Right, well, I've checked the service manual, and unfortunately it doesn't give a turntable height measurement. I know that there is a manual with it in there somewhere, and I've even found out my old technical notes from when I used to work there. I can't find it in there either. So I'm going to have to work on a little bit of guesswork. I know that the optical block has to be able to go up and down sufficiently so it doesn't hit the bottom of the disc. So I know that this particular turntable height is far too low at the moment. Presumably it's just been jammed in there. You can actually see, if I hold it up there, it's actually rubbing on the top of the optical assembly. So I'm just going to gently ease it up a little bit, just by put a pair of tweezers underneath it and then just lever it up slightly, because it's just a force fit, and it should just basically, as you push the tweezers underneath it like that, should lift it up a little bit like so. So now when we put a disc in, there is a fair amount of clearance between, if I can get the camera angle just right, there's a fair amount of clearance between the disc and the turntable, like so. I would guess that probably is enough, but it may be that if it struggles with focusing, I may need to increase it a little bit more. But it's dead easy to do. If you ever have to do any of this, you want a pair of pliers or a pair of tweezers with an angle, and you just grip the side of the pin and just push it until you can keep going, and then that will gradually lift the turntable up. It's best not to try and pull it off and then put it back on, because you can split them. If necessary, once you've adjusted it and it's all working, a little blob of Loctite or perhaps even nail varnish on there just to stop it moving. But it's generally the repetitious bang 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 of the clamp on it that pushes it down, stops it working. So we'll have to work on the basis that hopefully we've done that right, and we'll have to see how it goes when we reassemble it. So let's go back to that camera where we've got a little bit more coverage, and we can reassemble it again. Now just got to try and remember which way around it was. It was that way, wasn't it? Of course it was. Yep. So just pop it over the rubber mounts. Oh, it goes underneath that little bit of plastic there to start with. Over the rubber mounts, under the plastic, and then we just pull the rubber mounts to one up through like so, so that they hold it. Just a little wiggle like so. That's now held in place, and then this screw, which I've always thought was a bit superfluous because it's not really going to stop it falling off in normal practice, but it's there. So always put things back that you take out. I mean, it's not clamping down anything. The optical block can still move, but for some reason they felt it was necessary to include that in the mechanism. Right, so we've got the mechanism back into there. I've connected up the things, and of course one thing we mustn't forget is to take this shorting link off of the laser. I'd have complained if the laser wasn't working then. So I just need to touch that again, get that off. There we are. So we can now reassemble the circuit board onto the chassis. Okay, so we can rest the chassis on there, and we should be able to run it backwards and forwards without the tray in, just to see what it does. So let's power it off, power it on, see what happens. So that's the tray out. We've got a little leaf switch there which closes. Right, so let's put the tray in. Let's open the tray. Yep. And I just saw the optical block moving up and down. Let me get a bit closer in on that, and you can see what we're seeing. So we're just using, there's a little leaf switch here which is operated by the tray going in and out. So you can sort of simulate that the tray has gone in and out. Let's just get this into better focus. Right, so if we now press eject, so it thinks it's a tray out, close, tray in, the optical block goes up and down, and hopefully you may have seen the laser. So let's open, close. Now I can see a reflection of it in the light, but I can't see the actual laser through the camera, which is not surprising. The camera may or may not see it, but it may not be at exactly the right angle. But the next thing we can just try, so we do an open and a close. Right, what I was doing there, basically, because we've now got the disc in place and we've adjusted the turntable height, if that was too low, we would have heard that optical block hit the disc. So let's just do that one more time. Yeah, I think it is just hitting there. I'm just going to get low down and have a look. I think the disc is still too... Yeah, it is still too low, the turntable. So let's lift it up a little bit more. I'm just going to power it off because I've got live mains around here. I don't want to put my hands in there. So again, as mentioned before, pair of pliers or tweezers, just pushing it together just to lift that turntable up. It's a bit of an awkward position to get it in. Right, that's a little bit higher. Okay, let's try that again. Yep. It's even trying to focus. That's good. That's good. That's good. That tells me that there is a good optical block on there. Right. Now, sometimes you can take the clamp off if they're like a little bayonet fitting. So just gently turn it one way or the other, and sometimes that will come off. In this case it won't, so I'm just going to hold, let the clamp float there while I fire it up. And it says that there was a track, so I should be able to press play. And it's playing. I don't know if you can see on the display there. Can't quite get in the camera. Just go to the bench wide camera. Right, you can't see it, can't get it, but it is playing. So we've got it to a point where it's working up to a point. Now it may be that we may need to still make an adjustment of this turntable height, but I think we've got it about right, which is not bad considering it was a bit of a trial. So let's press stop, power it off and unplug it, and then we can reassemble the mechanism. Now one of the things I remember about this is you've got this lifter assembly here, which is governed by this gear moving backwards and forwards here, and there's this little lever here. Okay, and you've just got to make sure that that lever is sat, it's on the inside of this rail, because what happens is when that takes the tray in, it drives it, and then it continues to drive that gear and drops that down. So let's put that back in. Yeah, so you just have to hold the whole thing in, push it past these stops, crank the gear just slightly, I'm pretty sure that's now right, and that just holds that off. That's it, that goes on the inside of there, holds that off. So if we just power it on and it goes to that point and then press eject, yeah, so we've got it right. So when we put the tray back in, we just need to hold this little lever here. This little lever here has to be held in as we crank it in, just to get the gear. There's no alignment marks or anything like that. You just have to get it so that it goes to that point. All right, tray open. Again, power it down. Let's get the clamp that goes down. That little lever there has to go under that little slot there, and then this clips it in there. So these were made for servicing, unlike a lot of other models that came after it that were basically not made for any kind of servicing. So that clamp should be up when the tray is out, and there we go, and you see that starts to spin, which is the test, because it's actually spinning the disc trying to focus. So it's always certainly with all the Sharp CD players that I ever worked on, and I'm pretty sure it works the same with all the others, it spins the disc first, then it tries to focus. So let's open it, let's pop a disc in on the tray and see if and there we go, and it says there's 16 tracks on the display. Yeah, you just can't see it. It's an orange glow, but it's funny, the cameras are just not picking it up. So press play. It's playing the first track, second track. And just go right up to the last track. It's track 16 and it's playing that. So that means it's focusing right on the edge so the disc is slowing down. Constant angular velocity. Let's pop it back together. Now before we do that, I'm just going to do one other little thing. Because of various things drying out, I'm just going to pop a little bit of Molykote lubricant grease on the sled slide bars. That's these silver bars that this sled moves along. Oh, let's take the disc out. Oh Gloria, she gets chucked everywhere. So we've got a couple of these guide bars here and here. I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of Molykote grease on both of those. Tiny little drop. Barely a smear, that's all it's needed. Just along there, on the top, because that's where it rides. And that will just keep that sled moving nicely in future. So for a vintage CD player, this looks like we've got a good repair. All we've needed to do is a little bit of lubricant on the sled motor and drive belt on the front tray. So let's pop these screws back in here. So I'll just whiz through all this reassembly. So having reassembled it, connect it up to the amplifier, put a test disc in with some music from the YouTube library. Let's see what happens. Will it read this disc? Yep, it will. We press play. Oh, there we are. So it is a homemade disc, and these machines were never really built to play homemade CDs. Back in the 80s, I mean, CD writers were worth thousands of pounds, I think, or maybe even hundreds or whatever. So they were few and far between. So the fact that it's actually playing this at all is actually quite good. Let's try the next track. Yeah, it's just about got that one going. Like you can just see on here, it's a dull orangey colour on the display. And the fact that it's working means that I'm going to leave it alone. If it had been sort of really problematic with jumping, stuttering and all that kind of stuff, then I would have spent some time getting the mechanism in a position where I could get the scope on it and check the various test points. The fact that it's playing, I just managed to get the turntable in the right height by luck. That has given me great hope that it's actually going to be okay. It's really just a machine that somebody's had and they wanted to keep hold of it because it fits in with their system. And the fact that we've actually got it going, they haven't had it going for years. And they thought, oh, about time. Obviously people are watching YouTube and things like the repair shop to get old stuff going rather than buy new. So I mean, it's not even got remote control, I don't think, this one. It's just basically, it's all push buttons. But the fact that it's working is brilliant. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, of course. And I'll see you on the next one. Cheerio.